What you're about to witness isn't just a show, it's a snapshot of chaos, of desperation, of justice in real time. In American cities, police officers aren't just chasing suspects, they're navigating the blurred lines between protection pursuit and public perception. This episode, which follows officers responding to stolen vehicle shootings and violent disputes, is more than a collage of flashing lights and sirens. It's a window into the stories of people, criminals, victims, and enforcers whose lives intersect in the heat of crisis. But why does someone steal a car and lead police on a high-speed chase? Is it drugs, fear, a pattern of self-destruction? The deeper we dig, the more we find that every case has layers, and behind every suspect is a story. In this video, we'll explore the footage through fresh eyes. We'll pair these dramatic encounters with real-life analysis, expert commentary, and comparable cases. You'll see not only what happened, but why it matters. So buckle up. It starts with a pursuit. The original segment opens with a suspect speeding off in a stolen Honda. Police spot him entering the freeway, and before they can even flash their lights, the driver's gone. It's already a pursuit. But let's pause. This moment isn't just the beginning of a chase. It's the climax of something that probably started long before. Often car thieves are addicted to meth or crack cocaine, and they're stealing either for escape or trade. A stolen car can be worth a few hits on the street. At 70 miles per hour, the driver runs red lights. The danger isn't just to police. It's to families in crosswalks, to elderly drivers, to anyone on the road. The footage shows tight turns, blown stop signs, and a desperate attempt to lose officers. Commentary from a retired officer I interviewed in 2022 reminds us a stolen car is rarely just a stolen car. It's usually a rolling crime scene. That proves true here. When officers finally manage to disable the vehicle, the suspect doesn't give up easily. He crashes, he flees on foot, officers tackle him. When they pop the hood, they find the telltale sign of a stolen car, a tampered ignition with a stock key removed and a shaved key inserted. That's a trick well known among auto thieves: quick, silent, efficient. But then things escalate. Inside the car, a broken drug pipe, a lighter, burn marks, the smell of chemicals. The suspect's leg is injured from the crash, and he feigns surprise when asked if he noticed the police. Stereo was loud, he says. More likely he was running from more than just a traffic charge. Real-life parallel. In 2017, a man in Spokane, Washington stole a similar Honda Civic and led police on a chase that ended with a crash into a daycare playground, fortunately empty that day. He later admitted he was high on meth and believed aliens were chasing him. This isn't fiction. It's the kind of unpredictability police face daily. Lesson. When you see those flashing lights, remember this: police chases aren't just high-octane entertainment. They're deadly serious. One wrong move and a bystander dies. That's the weight every officer carries when they hit the gas. Coming up, what happens when stolen cars aren't just transportation, but currency for crack and chaos. In this segment, officers recover yet another stolen vehicle, this time from a suspect who has a story ready. He says he borrowed the car from a woman in exchange for crack cocaine. He even claims to have left her his ID as collateral. Sounds implausible, right? But this isn't rare. It's part of a dangerous underground economy: crack rentals. Let's unpack it. A crack rental is when someone trades drugs, usually crack or meth, for temporary use of a vehicle. The car is often never returned. Victims of this kind of theft may be drug users themselves, unwilling to report it to police due to their own legal exposure. The suspect in this case tries to manipulate the narrative. He plays coy, gives half-truths. He contradicts himself under pressure. "She's not my girlfriend." Then seconds later, "She's still got my ID." The officer handling him sees through it, calmly but firmly applying pressure. It's a subtle skill set that patrol officers refine over years, breaking through deception without escalating violence. Commentary. I spoke with a former narcotics officer in Phoenix who said we used to find a new crack rental every few nights. The stories were always different, but the desperation was the same. This type of transaction reflects how addiction warps judgment. For someone deep in drug dependency, a car isn't a vehicle, it's a ride to the next fix, a temporary passport to chaos. The 911 call is chilling. A man tells dispatchers he just shot his roommate. He sounds frantic but also strangely collected. He claims he acted in self-defense, that the victim pulled a gun on him first. When officers arrive, he walks out peacefully, hands in the air, fully cooperative. At first glance, it seems like a clean-cut case of survival. But inside the house, the crime scene tells another story. The scene: the victim is slumped in the kitchen, a slice of pizza still protruding from his mouth. That one detail, a simple greasy slice, raises serious questions. Why? Because people don't eat pizza during life or death struggles. If someone's threatening you with a gun, you're not snacking. You're bracing. You're reacting. But this victim was mid-bite. Something doesn't add up. Crime scene analysis: detectives note the following: minimal blood spatter near the body. The shower is wet with traces of blood inside. The shooter is clean, too clean. This triggers a red flag: possible cleanup. It wouldn't be the first time a shooter has washed away the chaos before calling the cops. But why would he do that if it was self-defense? Real-life comparison. In 2021, a Colorado man shot his roommate after an argument over rent. He claimed self-defense but made the mistake of texting a friend, "I think I fucked up." That text helped dismantle his case in court. In this Cops episode, the body language and lack of visible remorse echo that same kind of quiet guilt. The interrogation. The suspect breaks under gentle questioning. He admits he panicked. He says he was afraid. Then he says something else: "I flipped out. I killed my best friend." His voice shakes. That confession, half sorrow, half rationalization, is the kind of moment that defines real police work. Not the arrest, not the Miranda rights, but the fragile honesty that leaks through trauma. Commentary: the psychology of post-killing behavior. People who kill even in self-defense don't always react the way we expect. Some freeze, some ramble. Others start cleaning, almost in a trance, trying to make sense of what just happened. In this case, the suspect's body was spotless. His roommate's wasn't. That tells us more than his words ever could. The victim's final moments. The wounds are all close range. There are powder burns on the skin suggesting the gun was inches away. That could align with self-defense, or it could mean execution. We're not here to judge. But let's be honest, there are more questions than answers. Why didn't the roommate's gun turn up? Why was the house so calm? And why was the victim mid-meal? Lesson: the fine line between victim and suspect. This segment reminds us that not every case has a villain. Sometimes it's just two broken people caught in a spiral of resentment, fear, and terrible choices. The man who pulled the trigger might also be the one who felt most afraid. But feeling afraid doesn't always mean you were in danger. That's the line police have to walk between fact and story, evidence and emotion. It starts with a simple call. Residents at an apartment complex see a man under the hood of a dusty, beat-up car. He's loosening parts, tools in hand, and seems suspiciously focused. The car's been parked for ages, no plates, flat tires, looks abandoned. But here's the question: does that make it fair game? The man claims he's just checking it out, says he asked around, claims someone upstairs said they didn't know who owned it, so he figured why not take a peek. But let's be real. This isn't the first time someone's tried to disguise theft as curiosity. "I thought it was abandoned" is one of the oldest excuses in street-level crime. The same excuse is used for breaking into sheds, garages, and parked RVs. It's opportunism dressed in innocence. The confrontation. By the time officers arrive, emotions are boiling. Residents surround the man. One woman says she saw him unscrewing something. Another says he was taking parts off the engine. They're angry, ready to take matters into their own hands. The officer steps in just in time. He pats the suspect down, handcuffs him temporarily, and tries to get the full picture. Meanwhile, the crowd gets louder. Someone mutters, "We were about to handle it ourselves." That's not hyperbole. Commentary: when community frustration boils over. In low-income neighborhoods where police presence is sporadic and car theft is common, people learn to protect themselves. But that protection can morph into vigilantism, and that's dangerous. The crowd in this case was on the edge. One more push, and they might have jumped him. The officer even jokes, "You should thank me, they were about to beat you down. I saved your life." It's only half a joke. Real-life connection. The gray zone of abandoned property. In 2020, a Detroit man was nearly beaten to death after trying to strip parts from what he thought was an abandoned SUV. Turns out the vehicle belonged to a grandmother who kept it for sentimental reasons. She didn't drive it, but she reported the incident, and her neighbors handled the suspect before police arrived. He left in an ambulance. This happens more often than people think. The suspect's story falls apart. At first he's calm. Then officers find tools in his car, then a knife, then a record battery assault with a deadly weapon, DUI, obstruction evasion. The list is long. Suddenly, just checking under the hood becomes a flimsy shield for someone who's done this before. And now the residents are giving statements, pointing out specific parts he tried to steal. One even shows screw holes where an alternator used to be. Takeaway: not all thefts look like crime scenes. Sometimes theft is quiet, calculated, the hood's up, the tools are out, and it looks like a repair job. But it's a crime in motion, and if no one had called, that car would be one alternator short by nightfall. This segment isn't just about a busted car. It's about how communities get fed up and how easy it is for vigilante justice to sneak in when the system feels slow. The arrest starts out calm. An officer pulls over a large dark SUV with a busted headlight and no taillights. The man behind the wheel complies, hands up, no sudden moves. He even asks, "What did I do, officer?" with wide, innocent eyes. But here's the problem: they already know this vehicle is stolen. It's not just the lack of lights or the fact that he didn't know who owns the car. It's that this isn't his first time. Not by a long shot. Repeat offender, familiar script. The officer recognizes the man from a prior arrest also involving a stolen vehicle. He even brings it up. "Didn't Deputy Eldridge pick you up in another stolen rig last month?" The suspects reply, "I borrowed it." Borrowed. A magic word on the streets. But borrowing a stolen car without permission isn't borrowing. It's possession of stolen property. And when it's your second time, your story better be airtight. It's not. The key detail. The key itself: officers recover the car key, shaved down, bent, and filed to fit multiple ignitions. These aren't keys that belong to a vehicle. They're keys made to steal vehicles. In other words, evidence in metal form. The suspect insists, "I didn't bend the key." Officer responds, "But you're using it." That's the difference between guilt and innocence. Not who made the tool, but who used it. Commentary: the Tony defense. When pressed, the suspect claims he got the car from a guy named Tony. No last name, no phone number, no address, just Tony. A mythical benefactor handing out free cars with bent keys. In law enforcement, this is what's known as the phantom friend defense, a common tactic where the suspect blames an untraceable third party. Names like Tony Mike and Big D pop up again and again. Real-life parallel. A pattern of convenient friends. In 2016, a man in Fresno was arrested for possession of 3 stolen cars in 2 weeks. Each time he blamed a different friend. One time it was Tony. Another time it was Lisa's cousin from Modesto. But police traced the stolen vehicles back to one source, a local theft ring he was part of. When you see enough cases, the patterns emerge. Interview Insight cops who've heard it all. I interviewed an officer in Florida who said every guy who's ever been caught in a stolen car has a Tony. Tony is always generous, always conveniently missing, and never leaves paperwork. He chuckled, but then got serious. These are survival stories. They're lies, but they're born of desperation. Guys with records, no money, no credit. They need transportation, and they need an excuse. The struggle to rehabilitate: the suspect admits he was recently released. He just got a job. He was celebrating at the lake. He says it's his first day off in 10 days and he wanted to borrow a car to visit a friend. That might all be true. But again, the car is stolen. The key is shaved. And the driver has a history. This isn't a tragic first mistake. It's a cycle. Takeaway: second chances need responsibility. If you've served your time, society should give you another shot. But if you walk out of jail and go straight back to joyriding stolen vehicles with the same excuses, the same bent keys, that second chance evaporates. The justice system isn't just about punishment, it's also about trust. And when you show up in your second stolen car with the same story, you're not just breaking the law, you're breaking that TR. It's a disturbing scene from the start. Officers respond to a report of a stabbing. When they arrive, they find a man limping toward them, shirtless, holding his arm. Blood is soaking through the wrap. He's dazed but not panicked. He says, "He stabbed me." And then in the same breath, "We live together." This isn't your typical domestic violence call, at least not how most people imagine it. The couple is 2 men, both HIV positive, both emotionally volatile, both deeply entangled in love, survival, and self-destruction. The duality of the scene. As officers try to stabilize the victim, the other partner, the alleged attacker, is inside yelling from the doorway. Not hiding, not running, just arguing. He admits it. I stabbed him. Then comes the emotional roller coaster. He tried to kill me. He hit me first. He was fixing a tire. We were doing coke in the house. We were both fighting. It's chaotic, confusing, raw. Commentary: not all domestic violence fits a mold. This case challenges expectations. There's no abuser and victim in the traditional sense. These are two people locked in a toxic cycle of addiction, codependence, and physical violence. They love each other, they hurt each other, and they're both victims and perpetrators. Domestic violence doesn't always have a neat narrative. Sometimes it's two damaged people stuck in a loop. Real-world connection: LGBTQ plus relationships and abuse studies show that intimate partner violence is just as prevalent and often more underreported in LGBTQ plus relationships. In one 2022 survey, nearly 1 in 3 gay or bisexual men reported experiencing physical abuse by a partner. Why is it underreported? Fear of not being believed. Fear of outing themselves. Lack of trust in law enforcement. Shame. This scene captures all of that. The yelling, the defensiveness, the reluctant confession, the bleeding, the disbelief. The HIV element. A complicating factor. Both men are HIV positive, a fact they throw at each other in the heat of argument. He had it before he got with me. Well, we're both positive now. It's not just a health issue, it becomes ammunition in their emotional war. Officers try to de-escalate, but emotions are running high. And here's the hard truth: when chronic illness and trauma are mixed with drugs, poverty and unstable housing, violence can become the language of survival. Analysis: the role of officers in chaotic domestics. The officers in this scene don't lecture or escalate. They listen. They separate the two. They get medical help, and eventually they arrest the attacker. Not because they want to ruin someone's life, but because someone got stabbed. Full stop. There are no winners here, just survivors. Takeaway: love shouldn't come with stitches. This segment is a hard reminder that emotional pain often becomes physical, especially when untreated mental illness and substance abuse are in the mix. You can love someone and still hurt them. You can be hurt and still be capable of hurting someone else. And in the end, no matter the orientation, gender, or backstory, violence is violence. This stop begins, like many others, with headlights off, taillights busted, and a car creeping through the night. The officer flips on his lights and the vehicle pulls over. Out steps a young woman, barely 20. She's visibly shaking, tears already falling before the first question is asked. "I didn't steal it," she pleads. "I borrowed it from my roommate. Please don't take me to jail." She clutches a cell phone and says she's lost. The car isn't registered to her. Her story is vague. She can't say exactly when she got the car, or why she doesn't have a license, or where her roommate actually is. And then it starts to unravel. A stolen car and a stolen story. The vehicle has been flagged as stolen. Not earlier that week, but earlier that day. It belongs to the woman's roommate. The roommate had reported it missing just hours before. The suspects claim she gave me the keys, but police already know she didn't. They've spoken to the roommate. And then comes the physical evidence: a meth pipe in the console, residue in a small baggie, a push rod in the center panel used to stuff rocks into the pipe. She insists she hasn't used. She insists she had permission. But her hands are shaking for a reason, and it's not fear alone. Commentary: when addiction wears a tear-stained face. This scene is a sharp contrast to the usual. Tony gave me the car routine. This suspect is emotionally fragile. She's sobbing. Not defiant, not hostile, just devastated. But the facts don't change. She took a car without permission. She's in possession of drug paraphernalia, and her story doesn't match the registered owners. Real-life parallel addiction among young women in 2018. A 19-year-old woman in Missouri took her friend's car to run errands and disappeared for 48 hours. When police found her, she was asleep in the car outside a known meth house. She said she just needed to get away. She had 3 meth pipes and a baby in the back seat. Addiction doesn't look one way. Sometimes it looks like a party girl. Sometimes a mom. Sometimes a teenager just trying to feel in control. The trap of criminalization. The officers here walk a careful line. They don't scream. They don't shame her, but they also don't excuse her. One of them even says, "You're crying now. But when you took that car and lit that pipe, you weren't crying then." That line stings, but it's true. This woman isn't a hardened criminal. She's another casualty of addiction, someone who made a series of poor choices and now stands on the edge of ruin. And she knows it. Takeaway addiction steals more than cars. Meth doesn't just rot your teeth, it eats your truth. It convinces you that you're still in control even as you lie to cops with a pipe in your purse and tears running down your face. The officers do their job. They arrest her, they take the evidence, and they watch as she begs them to believe her. But belief can't override facts, not when public safety is on the line. The broadcast is urgent. A gray beat-up station wagon flat tire, multiple young black males inside just fired shots at a man outside a corner store. Officers spot the vehicle almost immediately. It's limping along, wobbling from the blown-out tire. As they initiate the stop, two passengers flee on foot. The driver and another suspect stay in the car. It's a messy arrest, screaming, denials. One man shouts, "I ain't got no weapon." Another says, "I don't even know those guys." But the car tells a different story. Physical evidence never lies. Officers find bullet holes in the side of the vehicle, bullet casings inside the car. No gun, yet the suspects claim ignorance. They don't know anything about a shooting. The driver says he was just driving around. But the passengers who ran match the descriptions given by witnesses. Blue shirts, white tanks, faces, positions in the car, all confirmed. One eyewitness says clearly the guy in the blue pulled the gun. It clicked. It misfired. Then they drove off. Another victim confirms the same. Commentary: the unseen weapon. Sometimes there's no smoking gun at the scene, but there are shell casings, bullet holes, witnesses, passenger descriptions, behavior. It's not always about what you find, it's about what adds up. That's how probable cause works in real life. Real-world comparison evidence versus emotion. In 2022, a similar case in New Orleans saw 3 teens charged in a drive-by with no weapon recovered. But prosecutors had matching vehicle evidence, shell casings, Snapchat posts bragging about the act, and a girl who flipped during questioning. They didn't need the gun. This is how modern police work functions, by building a circumstantial web. The suspect's defense. "I just got out." One of the young men is devastated. He shouts, "I just did 3 months for this exact thing." He says it again and again. "I didn't shoot nobody." That may be true, but intent and action are two different things. Driving the car, that's aiding. Fleeing the scene, that's flight. Sitting next to the guy with the gun, that's involvement, even if you didn't pull the trigger. The car, a crime scene on wheels. As they tow the station wagon, officers examine bullet trajectory, blood near the passenger side, gunpowder residue near the seat. They're building the case without the weapon, and they don't need a confession, because ballistics and eyewitnesses already did the talking. Lesson: guilt isn't just about the gun. This scene is a brutal reminder: when you get into a car with people carrying guns, you carry the weight of their actions. Silence doesn't shield you. Loyalty doesn't protect you. And "I didn't pull the trigger" isn't enough when bullets are flying in public places. Late at night, officers pull over a completely blacked out vehicle. No headlights, no taillights. It's a rolling shadow sliding through residential streets. Inside, a young woman alone, clutching the wheel with both hands. She's nervous, pale, tearful. "I ran from my boyfriend," she says. "This car belongs to my friend, Christina. She let me borrow it. But police have already run the plates." The vehicle was reported stolen just hours ago by Christina, the same woman she claims lent her the car. A stolen vehicle by any other name. The officers remain calm but direct. "How long have you had the car?" 2 days. "That's not what the report says." The suspect stammers. Her story shifts from "she let me borrow it" to "we talked about it too. I thought she wouldn't care." That's the problem with verbal consent. If it's not written, not proven, and the other party calls it in as a theft, it becomes your word against a police report. The discovery: pipe push rod paraphernalia. In the console, officers find a straight meth pipe, a push rod, burnt residue. The suspect doesn't even fight it. She just breaks down. The tears flow harder now. She knows where this is headed, and the car it's going back to Christina. Real-world insight addiction and casual. Theft, many vehicle thefts aren't the result of hot wiring in the dark or aggressive carjackings. They're the quiet ones, the ones where a friend, relative, or roommate borrows a car and doesn't bring it back. This is called unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, and it happens thousands of times a year, especially in drug houses, unstable domestic settings, and co-living environments. It's theft dressed up as miscommunication. Commentary: the gendered view of crime. Let's talk about optics. This woman is young, emotional, and visibly scared. Some viewers might instinctively feel more empathy, and that's natural. But the law doesn't bend based on tears. Possession is possession. Meth is meth. She didn't carjack a stranger, but she took something that didn't belong to her and likely in service of addiction. Interview: reflection officers on addiction and deception. A patrol sergeant I spoke with in 2023 told me, "It's not about who's lying the best, it's about who can't afford to tell the truth. And most addicts don't lie to trick you. They lie because the truth means going back to jail." That's exactly what happens here. The suspect tries one last plea. I talked to her earlier today, but officers know the facts and they're not negotiable. Lesson: friendship ends where felony begins. Borrowing a car becomes theft when the owner says no or doesn't know. And when addiction is involved, even roommates can become victims. The suspect didn't just break a law, she broke trust. And that's sometimes harder to repair than a stolen ignition. The cruiser rocks slightly as the woman in the back seat thrashes. She's cuffed, seatbelted, screaming at the top of her lungs, "Let me go! I didn't do this, my neck! You're choking me!" The officers remain calm, trying to buckle her in. One adjusts the seatbelt, another opens the door for air. It's not police brutality, it's not excessive force. It's a person in full psychological collapse fighting a reality she can no longer outrun. The arrest that brought this on earlier officers had stopped a vehicle suspected of being involved in a drug transaction. Inside, a woman and a man. Both claim innocence. But inside the vehicle, a meth pipe in plain view. Drug residue. A wallet belonging to someone else. A bent car key. As the officers begin questioning, the woman grows defensive. She claims she just got in. She doesn't know whose car it is. She has rights, but the evidence isn't on her side. Commentary: the crack pipe is the modern smoking gun. We often associate crime with weapons, guns, knives, breaking and entering tools. But in today's urban drug scenes, the meth pipe is the tool that tells the story. It's portable, it's addictive, and it explains 90% of the decisions that landed suspects behind bars in this episode. One officer puts it bluntly, "Every time we find a pipe, we find a pattern. That pipe tells us what decisions you've been making all week." The escalation: trying to escape custody. The woman in the cruiser begins slipping her cuffs, a serious charge if successful. She kicks the seat, screams that her neck hurts, shouts over and over, "I didn't do this." But officers have seen this before. This isn't new. It's desperation, not injustice. She's not being harmed, she's panicking. And panic doesn't change the facts. Real-life comparison. Fighting the inevitable, in 2021, body cam footage in Los Angeles captured a woman trying to eat her meth pipe in the back of a cruiser, hoping to destroy evidence. She ended up hospitalized for internal burns and still faced charges. The deeper fear wasn't the charge, it was withdrawal. These moments of meltdown are less about crime and more about losing control. Final takeaway: the human cost of street-level crime. By the end of this rewritten episode, we've seen car chases that nearly killed bystanders, addicts who traded crack for stolen cars, domestic violence hidden behind love and trauma, emotional breakdowns in the backs of police cruisers, suspects too high to remember their rights or wrongs. But these aren't just cautionary tales. They're warnings about a cycle, a loop of desperation, addiction, and denial that law enforcement must face nightly. These officers aren't just enforcers. They're negotiators, de-escalators, trauma witnesses, and the people they arrest, they're not just criminals. They're broken, addicted, stuck. Some are dangerous, others are lost, many are both. Closing message: the real cost of chasing bad decisions. This isn't just a show about cops. It's a show about consequences, about what happens when small lies: "Tony lent me the car, I just needed a ride." It's my roommate's car snowball into arrest charges and broken futures. And it reminds us of this: crime isn't always planned, but it always costs someone something. Whether it's a car, a friendship, a life, or just one more night in a cell.